Hi everyone, my name is Michael Golia,
And I'm Ethan Schindel.
and we are mentors with the Quest program, here to introduce the Quest Credential.
So, first, a brief history of our project. We were working with the other mentors and we did our brainstorming session and came up with a couple of good ideas. Some of our favorite ones were the Intro to Hackathon and Big Ten involvement for Quest and for Maryland. We kind of worked with a combination of the two of them, did some research into Big Ten involvement and hackathon involvement and how we could combine them. Brought our research back to the drawing board and came up with an idea that we think is better altogether, and that's the Quest Credential.
So you may be wondering what exactly we're talking about. What is a Quest Credential? We want to make it a point that it is not a class for college credit, it's not part of a certificate program, and it is definitely not part of a degree program. The reason for that is a lot of these titles are really limiting in a sense, in that only students who are enrolled in the university currently can take part, and more specifically to us, only students who are in the Quest program would be able to take part. In a sense, the Quest Credential really gives you the ability to say that you went through a specific set of training, and there are certain respected educators that endorse your ability. So we all know there's various skills people can put on their resumes that we would all like to, but we feel that as a Quest student, after taking this credential, you could put that skill with the confidence that there's a real sense of legitimacy to it.
Some of the program goals for the credential would be skills training available to everybody, so not just Quest students. It would also be your friends and Quest alumni and Quest students. It doesn't interfere with a weekly schedule. We're planning to have this thing on weekends, periodically throughout a semester, not necessarily limited to semester schedules either. Minimal cost, which is important, and we're going to address it further later. By the end of the program, you should have some kind of a deliverable product, something that you can show off to an employer or to your friends and family, and your mom would love it. It'll be awesome.
So recently we sent out a survey to gauge interest in the potential topics that we could develop for this credential program, and we found there was the highest interest in programming and business development. In third, fourth, and fifth were app development, 3D modeling, and product manufacturing, which were all actually tied for third. It's also important to note that we received 40% interest rate in every topic that was listed, which is absolutely great, and showing that everyone is really eager to learn some different topics they wouldn't in a traditional classroom. Since we sent out the survey, we also received some additional feedback catered maybe more to specific software such as Adobe Flash. And it's important to note that we really appreciate your opinion, and while this was simply to gauge interest, we're still definitely considering which classes we are going to develop for this credential program. So it's definitely not set in stone in any way.
We also asked about what would be the best distribution of time for this course, how many weekends and how many hours per session, so on. What we found was that overwhelmingly people preferred 8 sessions, which were 4 hours each. There was also a decent preference towards 4 sessions that are 8 hours each. Later on, I'm going to talk more about why we want to keep both of those options in play in our conclusions and before them.
So Ethan just touched a bit on how the class would be spread out, let's say over the course of a few weeks. I'm going to talk a little more specifically about how the class time will actually be divided over the course of an average day. Many of you, some of you may be familiar with the web development class that was taught last semester, and how this class worked basically was the class was dedicated mostly to lecture, and students had the following week to really work on the skills we developed within that lecture. It's important to note the skills that we developed ranged everywhere from front-end development, such as using HTML and CSS, all the way to back-end development, which included MySQL, PHP, and JavaScript, which are extremely useful skills to know in the business of web development. So how this class is meant to differ in a way is that it will be much more heavily focused on creating rather than lecturing. So if we take the average day in one of these credential classes for web design, ideally the first half of the class would be subdivided into lectures on very specific topics, possibly ranging from a half an hour to 45 minutes, which would be followed by a half an hour of time to design and create. The second half of the class throughout the day would be divided entirely to allowing teams to work together and work on their own larger project designs and really further their ideas. So again, the idea is to focus much more on creating rather than lecturing.
So about some of the research that we've been talking about, we went to a hackathon. It was HackRU. It was a really eye-opening, interesting experience for both of us. We found that while the format of having, this was like the first option of the timesheet question that was in our survey, where we asked if it would be good to have one session straight through. That's what a hackathon is. It's just blow through this project in a weekend. We found that that's a great environment for creating and for building a product and a prototype, and that's definitely something we would want to add to our credential program, but it wasn't a great environment for learning. We think that learning needs to take place over a larger amount of time and maybe with more sessions, intermittent. Similar online programs are MOOCs, which are massively open online courses. Thank you. MIT Open Courseware, Code Academy, Khan Academy, Geography IQ, and Mind Tools. There's also several more. These are just a couple that we found. These online resources make it possible to learn, but they're not necessarily group-based or taught by reputable educators or personal one-on-one or easy. We think that this is really the right way to kind of learn how to do a skill, and we think that this is definitely the best method that you could find. Really, this is going to be excellent.
So why the associated cost with the program? Well, we're hoping that the Quest credential can equate to what would be a 2-credit course in the university system, which would essentially be 32 hours of class time, which if you did the math would relate to about $2,000 in tuition. So we feel that the prices we have come up with for this program, being $1,000 for alumni, $500 for current non-Quest UMD students, and $250 for Quest students, is a fairly reasonable price for the program.
Some of our conclusions from our surveys and from our own thought projects are best time distribution would be either 8 meetings 4 hours each or 4 meetings 8 hours each. We're kind of reluctant to get rid of the longer options because it kind of provides more of that hackathon-ish feel to the program of creating and creative learning. The best topics as voted on by you guys were programming and business development, although all the topics were voted over 40%, so they're all still viable candidates. We believe that having a program like the Credential program will add a lot of value to Quest, in that it's a very interdisciplinary thing, it's Quest, and it gives a lot of professional skills, which are going to be respected by employers and by all sorts of important people. That really, it's very beneficial to all the members. We also think it'll enhance relationships with alumni. If they get to take classes with current Quest students, that would be excellent, and that would really strengthen the network.
So moving forward, what are the steps we have to take to put the wheels in motion to allow this credential to happen? First, people have to know that it exists, so we have to spread the word. We have to get in contact with alumni and students who aren't currently in Quest to understand what the real value is in taking part in this program. Second, most importantly, we need teachers. We obviously sent out a survey and gauged your interest, and there was such a wide variety of things that people wanted to learn, so we need people who specialize in these topics. Finally, we need to design the courses themselves. We need to design syllabi, which would possibly involve pre-course work, meaning that we wouldn't use that as the primary method for allowing the learning to take place, but we would simply allow people to be exposed to the type of material that they would really be doing hands-on work with while in the credential course, before they actually arrive.
And thanks for watching, guys. It's been a pleasure. Good luck to Cohort 19 on their presentations on Thursday. Please post any questions or comments below.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Hope you enjoyed the presentation.
Rock